At the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance, my fiancé and I were queuing to get our marriage license. Suddenly, a boy ran over and hugged my fiancé's leg, calling him Daddy. I thought it was a scam, but to my surprise, my fiancé picked up the boy with a doting expression. I just found out too. 5 years ago when I broke up with Hazel Thornton, she was pregnant with my child. Now that Hazel has returned to the country, a single mother with a child will face a lot of gossip. I must give them both a proper status. Under my astonished gaze, Hazel walked over, her fiancé held her hand, fingers intertwined, with a sweet expression. I calmly asked, "So what?" My fiancé said, "I have to register the marriage with Hazel. As for the two of us, since we're already here, why don't you take a photo with me in front of the Civil Affairs office? You can post it on social media to show off." Hazel raised her phone to take our picture, saying smugly, "Say cheese." My fiancé comforted me, saying, "Don't worry, you're the only one I love. I just see her as family. During this time, I want to make it up to the child by pretending to be Hazel's husband with her. After all, the child is innocent, he's never had a father, and it's so pitiful. I don't want to cause him childhood trauma. Let's postpone our wedding for now. When the child is older, I'll tell him the truth and give you a grand wedding." The three of them, like a loving family, went to get their marriage certificate. I took out my phone and called Colin, who had been relentlessly pursuing me for 10 years. "I'm at the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance, short of a partner to get the marriage certificate. Coming, my dear Matthews lady. Why the sudden ambush for marriage? I'm abroad. Just got off the plane." Colin's voice on the phone was filled with helplessness. I was taken aback. "All right, forget it then." Colin Barrett, who had been calm just moments ago, suddenly panicked. "Wait, don't go, let's hurry back before the Civil Affairs Bureau closes. Whoever changes their mind is a puppy." After hanging up, I sighed softly and decided to find a place to rest for a while. At that moment, I heard an annoyed voice not far away. "Ivy." I looked up and saw my fiancé Ethan. They had already obtained their marriage certificate and walked out. Ethan held the child in one arm and pulled Hazel with the other. A harmonious family of 3. He walked up to me, put the child down, and said in a displeased low voice, "What are you still doing here?" I answered honestly, "Waiting for someone, to get the marriage certificate." Ethan grew even angrier. "Why are you being so sarcastic? I've already explained to you, I just found out about the child's existence too, who doesn't have a past." I nodded. "Understood." Ethan pulled me along and said, "Since you understand, let's go home quickly. Don't make such a scene in front of the child." I shook off his hand and said seriously, "I'm really waiting for someone to get married." Ethan's face darkened. "Ivy, I'm telling you for the last time, if you keep acting like this, it will only make me dislike you more." At this moment, Hazel approached cautiously, looking timid. "Ivy, are you upset because you didn't get the marriage certificate?" She took out a red marriage certificate and tried to shove it into my hand. "How about this? You and Ethan hold the marriage certificate and take a photo together. After all, the cover is the same. As long as no one opens it, no one will know whose name is inside." I didn't catch it, and the marriage certificate fell to the ground. Hazel immediately teared up, crouched down to pick up the marriage certificate with grievance, and said in a choked voice, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have come back with the child." Ethan glared at me fiercely and threatened, "Ivy, I really didn't know you could be so petty. Since you can't accept Hazel's presence, I have no choice but to break up with you." Me, "Okay." My indifferent attitude made Ethan start for a moment. Hazel gently nudged the little boy again. "Call her auntie. Say auntie, don't be angry." But the little boy shouted loudly, "I won't. This bad woman is a homewrecker." He shoved me hard. "You're not allowed to take my dad away." Passers-by turned to look at me, many with disdain in their eyes. I even overheard someone say, "Damn, mistresses these days are so brazen, coming to the Civil Affairs Bureau to steal someone else's husband." I looked at the little boy and said calmly, "Your dad and I have already broken up. You don't need to worry. I wish your parents a happy union and to grow old together." Chapter 2. Ethan nodded in satisfaction upon hearing this and said to me, "That's more like it. You should always be this sensible from now on," holding the boy. He took Hazel by the hand and left. Watching his retreating figure, I silently thought, it's not that I'm being sensible, I meant every word. I found a nearby cafe to wait for Colin. During this time, a sudden trending topic popped up. Breaking news. Barrett Group's eldest son suddenly left the signing ceremony abroad. My heart skipped a beat. Barrett Group, the eldest son. It couldn't be Colin, could it? I clicked the link, and a video popped up. In the video, a handsome, tall man was talking on the phone as he turned to leave. If this isn't Colin, then who is? I could even faintly hear his voice. Whoever changes their mind is a puppy. Later in the video, there was a reporter interviewing the other signing party. Mr. Barrett left midway. Do you consider this disrespectful to your side? It was an elderly white man who shrugged and said with a smile, I can only say, love conquers all. I don't feel disrespected. On the contrary, I greatly admire Mr. Barrett for this. It aligns with our culture as well. We'll wait here for him to return and complete the signing ceremony. This won't have any impact on our collaboration. Putting down my phone, I was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. Colin pursued me for 10 years, always putting me first, truly loving me to the core. But my heart was entirely set on Ethan, never giving him any chance at all. Now that I'm completely disappointed with Ethan, I've finally come to my senses, comparing the two. I finally understood what true love is, and what mere pretense is. Thinking of this, I opened my mailbox and looked through Colin's emails to me. Each email was passionate and heartfelt. I used to find him annoying, but now I can feel the love between his lines. These were unmistakably love letters. I even feel a bit sorry for him, wondering how he managed to persist all these years. I carefully read through all the emails, and before I knew it, evening had arrived. Suddenly, a bouquet of flowers was held out in front of me. I looked up abruptly and saw Colin behind the flowers. Darling, sorry to keep you waiting, Colin said with a beaming face. This form of address made me pause for a moment. It really felt quite unfamiliar. Colin, noticing my silence, asked anxiously, You're not changing your mind, are you? I smiled at him. Don't worry, I have no intention of being a liar. We walked side by side into the Civil Affairs Bureau and smoothly obtained our marriage certificate. I knew there was a group of people waiting for him to sign contracts across the ocean, so I urged him to hurry back. Colin held me tightly. Wait for me to come back, and we'll have our wedding. Also, whoever changes their mind is a puppy. I watched Colin's retreating figure and couldn't help but smile wryly. The eldest son of the Barrett family, a titan in the business world, is this insecure? The sky had grown dark as I hurried home with the flowers in my arms. But to my surprise, upon opening the door, I saw Hazel and his son. Hazel was wearing my pajamas, sitting on the couch watching TV, and his son, with shoes on, was jumping up and down on the carefully selected couch I had chosen. The high-end custom sofa worth over $100,000 was covered in his footprints. The fire in my heart instantly flared up, but before I could speak, Ethan Walker walked out from the kitchen, frowning. Why are you back? I was so angry I choked, and after a long pause, I said coldly, This seems to be my house. The boy suddenly threw the toy in his hand at me. This is my dad's house. This is our home. Get out, Hazel said to me indifferently. Ivy, don't take it to heart. The child doesn't understand anything. She walked over and took the flowers from my hands without even asking. Are these for me and Ethan? Thank you for your blessing. Just as I was about to snatch them back, the little boy tore the flowers away. He threw the flowers violently to the ground and stomped on them twice. Stop trying to please my mom. We don't want your stinking flowers. Chapter 3. I was so angry it made my head hurt. Pay for my flowers, Ethan said impatiently. Ivy, he's just a child. How can you take it so seriously? Go cook in the kitchen. Don't provoke the child anymore. He actually handed me the apron. I was so angry I laughed. Ethan, do you take me for a servant? Why should I cook for you all? Ethan frowned tightly. Ivy Matthews, can't you be a little more sensible? Ever since the Civil Affairs Bureau, you've been possessed by drama, causing trouble non-stop. Originally, everyone was happy and harmonious, without any conflicts. But now you've stirred up so much chaos. I'm giving you a way out by asking you to make dinner. As an apology to Hazel and the child, I stared into his eyes. Ethan, look me in the eye and tell me honestly, don't we have issues? Do you really think I should be the one apologizing? Ethan's gaze wavered slightly, but soon he sighed and said, after all, the child is innocent. Ivy, you're an adult, even if you have to endure some unfairness for the child's sake, what's the big deal, at most? I'll make it up to you double in the future. My heart turned cold. Why, am I not innocent? At that moment, the boy took out a fork from somewhere and stabbed it hard into my thigh. Get out of my house. I pushed him away and said coldly, I bought this house. If anyone's leaving, it's you. The boy burst into tears and threw himself into Hazel's arms, sobbing. The house was indeed bought by me, intended as our marital home. It seems Ethan has forgotten. Actually planning to live here with another woman, building a family of 3, Hazel wiped her tears and said to Ethan with a sob, we were wrong, we shouldn't have come, we'll leave now. Ethan stopped her with a heartbroken expression. He said to me somewhat displeased, it's already dark, Hazel is with the child. Where could they possibly go? Ivy, can you be a little more generous? I nodded. Fine. But they must leave by daybreak, or I'll call the police. Ethan frowned and said, if you insist on driving them away, then I'll have to leave too. I chuckled. Sure. I opened the bedroom door, ready to go to sleep. To my surprise, the sheets were crumpled, and the quilt looked like someone had been using it. Even worse, beneath the pillow, there was a pair of used women's underwear. I felt instantly disgusted. Hazel has already slept in my bed. I took the important documents without even glancing at them, walked out quickly, and slammed the front door shut with a bang. I'll stay at a hotel tonight. That room is already dirty. I'll have to hire someone to thoroughly clean it tomorrow, throw away what needs to be thrown away. After a whole day of tinkering, I'm so exhausted I feel like falling apart. After freshening up, I lay down on the hotel bed when suddenly my phone rang. Someone wanted to add me as a friend. After accepting, the other person sent me a bunch of photos. Every photo captures Ethan and Hazel. The location is unmistakably my home. With the two of them entwined together on that wedding bed, at the end of the photo, there's a line, a wise person knows when to retreat. I replied, some people enjoy picking up trash, so I'll let her have it. Then, turn off the computer and go to sleep. When I woke up, it was already broad daylight. I had breakfast and went to collect my house, but when I opened the door, I was instantly stunned. There are many balloons and streamers inside, with numerous posters plastered on the walls. The posters all feature Ethan and Hazel's wedding photos. The room is filled with strangers, either sitting or standing, none of whom I recognize. They're stepping on my sofa, raiding my fridge, and even drinking from my cups. The books and documents on my bookshelf were tossed into complete disarray by them. Scattered everywhere, the antique ornaments I bought at auctions and the valuable gifts from my parents were casually passed around by them, with some even broken, suppressing my anger. I turned off their speakers. All those people looked at me with displeasure. I asked in a low voice, who are you? Why are you in my house? The people exchanged glances, looking doubtful as they said, your house, isn't this Hazel's house? We're here for the wedding. Who are you? I was so angry I could barely speak. Wedding, Ethan and Hazel, holding their wedding in my place. At that moment, someone suddenly pointed at me and said, I recognize you. Aren't you that homewrecker? Chapter 4. Before I could explain, someone splashed a cup of milk tea in my face. How shameless. A homewrecker like you dares to show up here. Are you trying to ruin the wedding? Then, more people started kicking and punching me. I fought back desperately, but they all ganged up to bully me. I was quickly knocked to the ground by them. With their numbers giving them courage, they grew increasingly aggressive. Some beat me mercilessly, others tore at my clothes, while some held up their phones to livestream. Wanting the whole internet to see what a homewrecker looks like, I desperately tried to cover my face with my hands, but they forcefully pulled them away. They grabbed my limbs and forcibly hung a pair of shoes around my neck. They spat on my face while calling me a slut. I cried, but it was no use. They abused me at will, using me for their amusement. Finally, someone shouted, the groom is back to fetch the bride. Those people stopped what they were doing and crowded toward the door. I scrambled to my feet in embarrassment and saw Ethan in a well-tailored suit and Hazel in her wedding dress. Ethan was taken aback when he saw me in this state, then quickly walked over and whispered, Didn't you leave? The wedding isn't real, it's all for the child's sake, just a show, I said coldly. Are the wound on my face and the shattered antique just props for this show? Ethan frowned, clearly dissatisfied with my response. All their friends crowded around, chattering, Ethan, this mistress is too bold, coming right to your doorstep. You should slap her too, to vent some anger for Hazel. Ethan didn't move. Hazel looked at Ethan with anticipation. Forget it, you go first, Ethan said to me. I said indignantly, why should I leave? In what capacity should I leave, as the other woman? Tell me, am I the other woman? Someone nearby spat at me. Ethan already has a wife and kids. What else are you if not the other woman? With a face full of grief and indignation, I persistently asked Ethan, am I the other woman? Ethan whispered, no. The crowd erupted, all standing up for Hazel in outrage. Ethan said to those people, you've all misunderstood. Actually, she and I are just ordinary friends. She's not the other woman, I'm not close with her. I was so angry at this absurd scene that I laughed. Not close, Ethan, if you and I aren't close, why are you holding your wedding with your ex in my house? Someone nearby kicked me. What do you mean your house? This is clearly Ethan and Hazel's wedding home. A gold-digging woman must be hallucinating, right? People like her should be paraded through the streets. People around me were cursing at me without any restraint. I took out my phone and dialed the emergency number. But Ethan snatched the phone from my hand and hung up. He said in a low voice, Ivy, can you wait until after today to make a scene? After today, you can do whatever you want. I was about to speak again when a familiar voice beside me said, Ivy, listen to your aunt. Making a big scene today won't do you any good either. I turned my head, looking at the person in disbelief. It was Ethan's mother. Every time she saw me before, she would hold my hand and ask about my well-being, treating me better than her own daughter. Moreover, she repeatedly warned Ethan that he must never bully me, or she would be the first to object. But I never expected that she would actually attend Ethan and Hazel's wedding. She dragged me into the bathroom. After locking the door, she said to me, Ivy, don't worry, Auntie will stand up for justice for you. Ethan had this child before he met you, so it doesn't count as cheating. Just have him marry Hazel and then get a divorce. Wouldn't that solve it? A divorced man with a child sounds better than a man with an illegitimate child, doesn't it? I laughed in frustration. Auntie, who said I must marry Ethan, who he marries or whether he has children is none of my business. It's just that this house is mine, and I'm asking him to leave. Also, he must compensate for the losses he caused me today. Ethan's mother was stunned. She looked at me in disbelief. Didn't you love Ethan the most? You used to be willing to do anything for him. Once when Ethan wanted to break up with you, you knelt at my doorstep for 3 hours. Right now Ethan is just giving Hazel a title, nothing more. Why are you taking it so seriously? Her bringing up past matters left me with mixed emotions. How foolish I was back then. In this relationship, I've been too. Clearly, I'm the one from a wealthy family, yet Ethan has me wrapped around his finger, making everything revolve around him. Constantly afraid he might be unhappy or displeased, Ethan has figured out my temper and keeps pushing his luck more and more. He always belittles me, frequently threatening to break up, and the more he does this, the more insecure I become, fearing he might abandon me. Perhaps it's precisely because of this that Ethan dares to openly marry Hazel without hesitation. He must think that I've been completely tamed. I've never been in love before, and I thought loving someone meant making them happy. But I never considered that loving someone should first make myself happy. Thinking of this, I smiled at Ethan's mother. Auntie, the past is the past, and now is now. If I don't get a satisfactory answer today, I'll have no choice but to call the police. I opened the door and walked out. Ethan's mother was behind me, threatening angrily. Ivy, you'd better think about the consequences. Many people saw you being the other woman today. Whether it's true or not, your reputation is ruined. By then, when you turn around begging Ethan to marry you, our family might not even be willing. Furious, I retorted, no need for your concern, I'm already married. I picked up the phone from the ground, ready to call the police immediately, but Ethan grabbed hold of me. He said coldly, Ivy, you're determined to ruin my wedding with Hazel, aren't you? Fine, I won't protect you anymore." He shoved me to the ground and said to the jeering crowd around us, "Take her to the guest room. Don't let her disturb us." In an instant, 7 or 8 men surrounded me, eagerly dragging me toward the guest room. Before we even entered the door, they began groping me. Once inside, the consequences were all too predictable. I struggled desperately, but there was no way to break free. Just then, the front door burst open with a loud bang. A man shouted angrily, "How dare you bully my wife?" My tears instantly streamed down. It was Colin Woe arrived. Chapter 5. Colin had martial arts skills to begin with, and he brought over a dozen bodyguards. As soon as they entered, they immediately took control of the situation. Ethan and Hazel's friends shouted loudly, and those who tried to resist were quickly knocked to the ground. Colin quickly walked over and picked me up from the ground. He was so distressed that he almost cried, whispering in my ear, "It's my fault. I blame myself for not being by your side." My face buried in his chest. My nose tingled with emotion, my voice choked up. "How did you find this place?" Colin said. "I saw someone live-streaming bullying you, so I used all my resources, and it took some time to locate this villa. Darling, don't worry, with your husband here, you won't suffer the slightest bit of injustice from now on." At that moment, Ethan walked over. He glared angrily at Colin. "Who are you?" "Ivy is my fiancée. Don't you dare touch her." Colin looked at Ethan with disdain and said, You think you're worthy of marrying Ivy? I've put up with you for too long. I know everything you've done over the years. Today, I'm going to teach you a lesson on behalf of my wife." He punched Ethan in the face. Ethan was actually knocked flat on his back by the punch. Dazed and unable to get up for quite some time, he lay on the ground, half of his face swollen, and asked me, "Ivy, who is this person? Are you really married?" I could hear a trace of panic in his voice. I didn't even bother to respond to him. I took down the camera from the corner of the room and said to Colin, "Help me call the police. There's evidence inside of them bullying me and destroying my belongings." Colin nodded. After calling the police, he checked his watch and said to the bodyguards, "We have half an hour before the police arrive. Let's teach them a lesson." The bodyguards immediately took action, starting to beat up Ethan and Hazel's friends. Ethan was thrown into a corner, beaten black and blue. Hazel's makeup was smeared, and her wedding dress was torn to shreds. Her son kept crying and cursing at us, until the bodyguard picked him up and locked him in the bathroom. Half an hour later, the police arrived. I handed them the surveillance footage, not counting my injuries. The antiques destroyed in the room alone are worth 30 million in total. Hazel's friends were all pale with fear. They shouted loudly, "Are you trying to scam us?" I took out the auction's transaction records and said coldly, "If you disagree, you can have it appraised." The police reviewed the video on the spot and, by comparing it, found that almost everyone had participated in damaging the antique. When the costs were divided, each of them ended up with millions in debt. Those people were thoroughly terrified. Many people looked at Ethan and said, "Ethan, we only got involved in this mess because we attended your wedding, and besides, we hit her to stand up for your wife." Ethan kept his head down and remained silent. Someone shamelessly said, "Ethan, shouldn't you be the one to pay for this? Aren't you the CEO of a listed company? A few million should be nothing to you, right?" Ethan hadn't even spoken yet when his mother became agitated. She shouted loudly, "Why should our Ethan pay for it? Our family has no money. What CEO? It's just a title. That company actually belongs to the Ivy family." At this point, Ethan's mother suddenly turned pale. She seemed to finally realize what their family had done. With a pleading expression, she looked at me and said, "Ivy, let me apologize for today's incident. Later, I'll make sure Ethan apologizes to you properly. His engagement with Hazel is off, and I'll have him marry you today. Can you let it go for Auntie's sake?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Auntie, is your face worth 30 million? Chapter 6. Ethan's mother froze. She wanted to lose her temper but didn't dare. She knew that I was no longer the person I used to be, and that it was impossible to manipulate me as easily as before. At that moment, I heard a voice gritting through clenched teeth. "Ethan, didn't you say the company was yours?" I turned my head and saw a disheveled Hazel suddenly straddling Ethan, fiercely choking his neck. She seemed to be filled with extreme hatred. Wailing, "You lied to me. You said you were young and promising, successful in your career, with hundreds of millions to your name. You said you could give me and our child a stable home, that you'd make me a wealthy lady. Turns out it was all lies. You're just a freeloader. You tricked me into marriage. I was abroad, about to marry a rich man. But I came back for you, and now I've lost everything. It seems Hazel's mental state is on the verge of collapse. Ethan kicked Hazel away, struggling to get up from the ground. With a face full of disappointment, he said, "Didn't you always claim you didn't care about money at all? That you just wanted to give the child a complete home?" Even the police couldn't stand this farce any longer. They arrested everyone involved and warned them that if they couldn't compensate for my losses at full price, they would definitely go to jail. Ethan and his gang were taken away. Colin then carried me into the car, rushing straight to the hospital for a medical checkup. Actually, my injuries were just superficial. With some bandaging and a few days of rest, I'll be fine. At the hospital, my parents rushed over. They had already heard about what happened on their way here and were so angry their faces turned pale. My father immediately declared that he would fire Ethan from our family business and immediately investigate his accounts to see if he had embezzled any company funds during his tenure. If so, he would be handed over to the authorities without delay. Colin earnestly said to my dad, "Uncle, don't worry, I've already issued a blacklist order against him. I guarantee he won't find any job. Even if he becomes a beggar, he won't get scraps." My parents looked at Colin with heartfelt approval. They sighed and said, "You've always been our favorite, but unfortunately, Ivy has such poor judgment, throwing away gold to pick up stones. Fortunately, after all the twists and turns, you two ended up together again," Colin said with a smile. "It's because I'm not good enough." "So Ivy didn't fall in love with me at first sight?" My mother raised an eyebrow. "Not good enough? How could you not be good enough? To be honest, I'd even like to adopt you as my godson," Colin said. "I'd be more than willing, but then it would complicate the marriage with Ivy." My mom actually looked regretful and said, "That's true too." Colin grinned mischievously at me. "How about this, uncle and aunt? You adopt me as your son and disown Ivy, cutting ties with her." I saw that my parents seemed genuinely tempted by the idea. I couldn't help but exclaim, "Hey, I'm your biological child, okay." During my hospital stay, Colin managed to make my parents beam with joy. I've never seen my mom this happy before. Even as I lay in the hospital bed, they had already settled on the wedding date and all the arrangements. On the day I was discharged, I happily went home carrying a huge bouquet of flowers. As soon as we arrived at the hospital entrance, we saw Ethan's mother. After just a few days apart, she looked much more haggard. Upon seeing me, she came running over. Colin immediately shielded me behind him, watching her warily. Ethan's mother trembled and knelt down. Many people came in and out of the hospital, all curiously looking in this direction, but she didn't care at all, pleading with a desperate expression, "Ivy, Auntie is kneeling for you. Please don't stay angry with Ethan. Can't you two make up?" Today the police took Ethan away. They said Ethan embezzled a lot of money from the company, and you're going to sue him. "Ivy, for my sake as your aunt, can you let this go? You love Ethan so much. How could you bear to see him go to jail?" I ignored her and walked past. She then crawled on her knees toward my mother, pleading, In-laws, how can you just cancel the engagement that was already settled? I've inquired about it. This Barrett boss is wealthier than our family, but we can't let money come between the children's feelings." My mother frowned with disgust. Some passers-by nearby had already caught the drift and began pointing fingers at our family. "It seems our family has become the one that despises the poor and favors the rich, the one that breaks off an engagement." Colin smiled and said loudly, "Auntie, your son is already married. He's registered at the Civil Affairs Bureau, and now you come here to help him propose to my wife. In our country, bigamy is a crime." Ethan's mother immediately grew anxious and blurted out without thinking, "Their marriage is just a formality. They can divorce anytime." Colin responded with an "Oh, so your family treats marriage as a mere formality, something you can enter and exit at will." Now even bystanders understood the situation and began mocking Ethan's mother sarcastically. "After all this fuss, turns out the old woman is nothing but a scoundrel. He must be a scoundrel. What decent person would kneel in the middle of the street?" already married, yet still eyeing others. How can such people exist? Film it, post it online so everyone can see this bizarre character. Chapter 7. Ethan's mother panicked, covering her face as she fled in disgrace, and I, immersed in the happiness of my impending marriage, didn't take such a minor incident seriously at all. The day of the grand wedding arrived swiftly. Colin gave me a magnificent traditional Chinese wedding. Every step of the ceremony was solemn and dignified. As if heaven and earth themselves bore witness to our union. Just as the wedding was about to conclude, someone suddenly burst in, shouting, "I object, I object." All the guests present turned their heads with curiosity, looking at that person. It was Ethan. He seemed to have just been released from prison. Still sporting an extremely short buzz cut, clutching a large bouquet of flowers in his hands, he stumbled towards me. Colin's bodyguard rushed over and stopped him. Ethan directly knelt on the ground, holding the flowers, and said with deep affection, "Ivy, I just got back from the detention center and heard the news that you're getting married. Can you give me another chance? Let me pursue you again." I looked at him with utter speechlessness. Colin whispered in my ear, "You actually dated such an embarrassing man before." My face flushed with embarrassment. Everyone has their blind moments. I and Colin whispered to each other, pointing and gossiping about Ethan as if watching a circus act. Ethan's face flickered with a trace of anger. But this anger quickly faded. He threw the flowers to the ground and began slapping his own face, striking hard while shouting loudly, "Ivy, I'm sorry. The old me hurt your heart. Ivy, I'm sorry. The old me rarely considered your feelings. Ivy, I've already divorced Hazel. From now on, you're the only one for me. Ivy, give me another chance. Please forgive me." I didn't answer him, but instead said to the bridesmaids, "Ladies, you should take this as a warning. The one kneeling down here is a textbook example of a scumbag, a cautionary tale. Don't end up as unlucky as I did." Everyone present laughed. Everyone looked at Ethan with contempt. He had become a complete clown. He crashed into my wedding to propose, and no one found it romantic or brave. They just thought he was bizarre and shameless. Ethan looked unwilling to give up. Still trying to win my forgiveness, Colin waved his hand, and the bodyguards immediately dragged him out. Our wedding wasn't affected in the slightest, and I could feel that all our family and friends were filled with heartfelt blessings today. It wasn't until after our honeymoon that I Walker gradually heard some Ethan news. Back then, the reason he could get out of the detention center was because his mother sold their house and used all their savings to compensate the company. You could say he was completely bankrupt. That day after being Colin's bodyguards threw him out, Ethan still wanted to force his way back in. This time the bodyguards didn't hold back. Directly breaking one of his legs, Ethan dragged his crippled leg home in disgrace, only to run into some old friends. Those friends had all lost their family fortunes. Some sold their houses, others took out online loans to compensate for the damages they caused me that day, barely managing to get out of prison. Our family and the Barrett family are wealthy and powerful, so they didn't dare provoke us. Instead, they directed all their anger toward Ethan. After all, from their perspective, the incident happened on Ethan's wedding day. They claimed they were helping Ethan and Hazel, which is why they beat me. So, they gathered together and pressured Ethan to repay the money. But how could Ethan possibly come up with it? As tensions rose, they grew increasingly aggressive, shoving and eventually beating Ethan. Chapter 8. Ethan's life was completely ruined. He tried to find a job but faced rejection everywhere. Even after changing his name, he would still be recognized and immediately fired on the spot. In the end, he was left to wander the city, surviving by scavenging through trash. As for Hazel, after Ethan and she got their divorce certificate, she disappeared and was never seen again. Her son, however, stayed behind and was raised by Ethan's mother. At first, Ethan's mother adored her precious grandson. But as time went on, she realized he was a little troublemaker. Yet by then, it was too late to get rid of him. The old woman and the little boy were either arguing or fighting every day, and on several occasions, Ethan's mother was so furious she fainted. One evening, Ethan was rummaging through a trash bin when he suddenly saw a woman stepping out of a luxury car by the roadside. The woman was dressed to the nines. It was unmistakably Hazel. She had become the mistress of a wealthy man. Ethan turned red with rage, screaming frantically, "It's all your fault I ended up like this. It's all your fault." He frantically lunged forward, grabbing Hazel's head and smashing it violently onto the road until Hazel stopped breathing. Ethan was arrested on the spot and sentenced to death for intentional homicide. The Walker family was left with only Ethan's mother, who numbly carried on with life while raising the boy. One day, the boy threw a tantrum demanding to play with a phone. Leading to an argument with Ethan's mother, the boy actually took a fruit knife from the kitchen and viciously stabbed Ethan's mother. Ethan's mother nearly died at home, but fortunately, relying on her remaining consciousness, she managed to call for emergency help. The boy was caught, and the police, following protocol, collected his DNA for their records, only to discover that the boy and Ethan shared no blood relation at all. Upon learning all this, Ethan's mother completely lost her mind. She sat in the rental house all day, mumbling incoherently, "If only I had married Ivy, if only I had married Ivy." The boy escaped from the reform school, went home to steal money, intending to buy a phone. In the end, he got into a scuffle with his mentally unstable Ethan's mother. During the altercation, a fire broke out in the rental house. The fire killed both of them, burning away the Walker family's sins, leaving nothing behind. I saw the news about the fire, then turned off the TV. Ethan, such a distant name now, although it's only been a few short months, it feels like a lifetime ago. I touched my slightly protruding belly and called out to Colin, "Honey, are you ready? We should leave for the prenatal checkup now." Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.